Hey everybody, thanks for watching. And just a quick reminder that Zodiac Body Volume 2 is now available, as well as Debating the Bible. There's also a new video on Merkabah Academy. As I said, I'll be putting videos on there that I cannot put on YouTube. So for Never Pay Again members and people who have pro access, it's a new video on Merkabah Academy, just getting into some more information pertaining to what's happening today and what's been happening last few days. You'll see what I'm talking about. But new video on there. Go check it out after this video. But I always try to put a video out on the 4th of July. I know it's a lot of people who do not celebrate. So also, we're having a giveaway. So we need to get at least 500 people to become Merkabah Academy Pro members and subscribe for the $7.99 a month. And we will give away all you see here to 2 people. So that's the new PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, the Xbox Series X, the new Nintendo Switch, the old Nintendo Switch, also a iPad Pro with a keyboard that comes with it and a case for the Switch. And there's no game is going to come with it. It's going to be for 2 people. All you have to do is when you subscribe, make sure you go in the comment section and put your username for Merkabah Academy in the comment section. We're going to pick 2 people on the 6th to win this. But we need to get at least 500 people. That's 5 days. We need to get at least 500 people to sign up and subscribe and become a Merkabah Academy Pro member. And we're going to have this giveaway, which I will announce in the video on the 6th. Also, those of you who have already bought the Merkabah Academy Pro Access, make sure you guys go ahead in the comment section and comment your username and subscribe. Those of you who know me know I'm a gamer. I've been selling video games for years, and I'll eventually get into some esoteric games because there's a lot of games out there that you can do long videos on. I have a lot of information, a lot of hidden stuff in a lot of these video games. So I'll get into a lot of game titles eventually for people to understand what these games are about. But yeah, make sure you guys subscribe first, and then make sure you go ahead and purchase the Merkabah Academy Pro membership, $7.99 a month. And all you got to do, as I said, just comment your username and subscribe. Also, books talked about in the last video, they're going out. All books are available, but make sure you get it as soon as possible because they will sell out. Also, Merkabah Academy Pro Access, $7.99 a month is still available. If you don't want that, as I said, you can get Never Pay Again membership for $2.99. That will go away on Tuesday. Tomorrow. So take advantage now. And I appreciate everybody who's been supporting. I know a lot of people, I hate having to get into this information in the beginning of every video. But as I said, I'm blacklisted, you might as well say. Not everybody is seeing the videos. A lot of people sending emails about stuff I talked about in the last video. So I try to put the information out so you guys who may have missed the last video can know what's going on and, what's new. So getting to the video, as we talked about previous video about, religion and what's happening with a lot of people coming out. And it's mostly the Christian apologetics. And the Christian apologetics, which if you go and look it up here, it says Christian apologetics is the study and research of historical, evidential, and reasonable facts to defend Christian theology. In studying Christian apologetics, you will not only look to the Bible, but also strive to find outside sources that reinforce the authenticity of the teachings found in the biblical text. Now, let's look at this word authenticity. And it's, refers to the proven fact that something is legitimate or real. Leave it right there. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of you guys send me links to Christian apologetics videos. There's a lot of guys out there who have entire, auditoriums and churches filled with just going into information. And it's almost like it's idiotic, because it's one of the things where they're taking the information, because you have to think about this. You have to think about what is put out there for the people to use and accept as facts or evidence towards the validity of the Bible. So if you was to go on a quest for this, you run into a bunch of information, and a lot of that information is all going to depend on how you accept it. And that's the thing. See, we take typical research as it pertains to anything else, and we put it to the Bible, and it's like trying to prove a fairy tale. Now, with typical research, if we're trying to research like, a lost ship that was, shipwreck that was found with gold, how will we trace this back to the people? Now, when we find this actual shipwreck that will have gold, we're not going to find a certificate of manifest, but we're going to find stuff on the ship pertaining to where that ship originated from. It's going to be markings. The gold's going to have markings. There's going to be stuff we're going to see, identifying marks that we're going to find that we could trace back to a city or a village or a town. And then we can go and look back and, track all of this information that's going to be compiled to tell us who built the ship and why it was commissioned and so on and so forth. It's research to be done that goes back to stuff that you're actually going to find that's true. Now, pertaining to the Bible, it's like, one, we can't find the ship. We can't find what you're talking about. We can't find that one. We can't find the person who told us that it exists. We can't find the person who mentioned or wrote about what supposedly had happened with Jesus. We can't find these people. So what evidence do you have? What are you talking about? What's the evidence? The evidence for them is what people said. And what did these people say? We can't prove that these people actually existed. So what we have is writings, right? And then we don't even have the original writing. So this is basically it. Forget everything else. So Jesus being mentioned outside the Bible, and it's one of the things that these apologetics go into. Well, he was mentioned by Roman sources, Jewish sources outside of the Bible, but decades after his death. So obviously, the person, they say around 4 BC, Jesus is supposed to have possibly been born. And you have this life that he lived. And then you have these people who supposedly, decades after he died, are writing about the prophets who supposed to have witnessed what happened to Jesus. We don't have a firsthand account from Jesus himself. And then you also have to think about, again, this is one of those things where they're not going into common sense. You have to think about if there was a prophet back then or somebody who wrote about what was taking place with Jesus back then. What about the people whose lives he directly affected? What about, Lazarus? What about, the blind kid who he healed, the sick person he healed, the people who he fed, the person he saved from the water, the people who witnessed him perform these miracles? Where are the writings? So you would think the lineage of Lazarus, the lineage of the people who he raised from the dead would keep some type of record and would have written about Jesus and what he did. The people who was around him, there should have been more writings about him close to the time or basically the same year. Now, just put yourself in that position, and we can go from carvings we find in caves. Think about that. So we're talking about supposedly thousands of years, tens of thousands of years in some cases before all this Jesus stuff. We had people living in primitive caves, who had the foresight or who had the appreciation or, whatever you want to call it, to carve in cave walls, the horses, the cows, the people. They carved it in caves to basically display and show what they were seeing so long ago before this happened. But the people who, witnessed these miracles did not carve anything. They didn't write anything. If this happened to you within that same year, same day, whatever, if Jesus healed or raised from the dead my dad or uncle or cousin or what have you, people are going to talk about it. It's going to be correspondence about it. There's going to be so much rumors and information going on around it that we're going to have writings that same day, information that same day. But this is not what we find in the case of Jesus. We are supposed to just accept the information that's out there. And again, we go back to these manuscripts, which is all we have. And they don't fit because we don't have originals. And we know there's errors and mistakes because we have copies of copies. So then we also have to think about the unbelievable things that Jesus did that, we have this whole religion because of it. Jesus miracles and so many miracles and miracle. And that's the main thing people point to. Miracle, miracle. And then he died for our sins and everything like that. All this stuff surrounding these things to the point where we have biblical religion. We have a whole religion, Christianity centered around Christ. But we can go back into the Old Testament and it's people who did amazing things just like Jesus did. We're talking about heal the sick and blind and raise the dead. So when you go back and look, we have to ask ourselves, how come during the Old Testament, Jewish times, that we don't have a doctrine, a book that could have been, instead of us having Christianity based off of Jesus, we should have a whole entire doctrine, just based off of, Abraham, Isaac, Noah, it should have been people that that should have been talking. But if you want to go into something that's more like showing, abilities, supernatural shit, we're going to go look at Elijah. And then after Elijah, even more so, Elisha. The stuff that they was doing was amazing. Miracles. They called them miracles. So was Elijah supposed to have did 8 miracles and Elisha like 16, doubled his miracles. So when you look here, as you can read all these, and it's actually other stuff that they did, the fire raining down from Elisha's side as well, and having the God prove that his God exists. So it's so much stuff that was happening. And when you read all these and look through them, it's like, okay, Elisha raised the dead and healed the blind and the sick and so on, a leper, so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, so there wasn't a religion based off of these guys that could have been based around the stuff that they did. But we don't have no writings. We don't have anything to show that these people actually existed, except for later on. It just so happens when we get to the 3rd century BC or what have you, that we start getting, these writings. And we can't even prove that. We can't even say that this is, actual truth. It's just, at the end of the day, it's writings. So, for the people who did comment on this and send me emails about, that information being, their source or what they go to, because I had a couple Christians email me about, I guess their apologetics and, or what we'll call them apologists, because they want to apologize about the bullshit that exists within the Bible. But they cite these, this information that they use to basically give validity to their beliefs. But this information is not information that we can look to as being concrete, sound information. It is stuff that is just evidence. And I don't even like to consider it evidence, because to me, it's all made up shit and stuff that they're trying to piggyback on to give themselves validity or put themselves in a historical timeline. So even when, people say, oh, Jesus is a historical figure, and historical doesn't mean real. Historical just means something that's old, that's talked about from old times, from ancient times, that we're talking about that made an impression on people's life or society or what have you. In that context, then yeah, Jesus is a historical figure. But we could say that about Zeus. We could say that about Prometheus. We could say that about a lot of people who had impacts on societies because of, their mythology. So even if we didn't have, because one of the apologetics said that there is basically without the Bible, that is enough information out there that's outside the Bible to prove Jesus' existence, to prove, what happened with Jesus, because so many people wrote about Jesus and talked about Jesus outside of the book. Now, it's a stupid statement because you don't realize those people who are not Christians who talked about Jesus outside of the Bible only talked about Jesus because of the Bible. So you can't say that if we didn't have the Bible that, we still have this information, because if we didn't have the Bible, then they would have never made up the information. So these are the type of, things that they bring up and they talk about. And apologetics is really, they're smarter than the average Christian because they know how to take the information and flip it. And, and to me, if you're willing to believe that snakes and donkeys can talk and people got super magical powers, then you'll fall for anything. And a person that's a little bit smarter than you can get you to accept what he's saying if he puts it in the right way. And a lot of these guys who I'm seeing come out and doing these lectures, they're smart. But if you think about, the story of Samson and him having, superhuman strength and everything, and, just the legend around him, where it could be an entire, mythology, a cult. So Samson has this superhuman strength and he's, so strong. He kills all these Philistines. I mean, it's like so many people are supposed to have witnessed this stuff. This dude, so strong, he kills an entire army of Philistine soldiers with a donkey's jawbone and gets his hair cut, loses his powers, his strength, prays to God to give him his strength back. He gets his strength back just in time to pull these pillars down and kill all the Philistines and kill himself. Instead of just asking God to, rain fire on him like he did at, Sodom and Gomorrah. It's crazy. It don't make sense. But you would think it would be a whole, doctrine, a book, a teaching around this guy, but it's not. And a lot of the stories, as I said, this is mythological stuff. It's fairy tale stuff when you just read it. And for a person to be someone who is viewing information, who's supposed to be viewing, whatever facts, which is not really no facts, or let's just say the evidence. You're a person who your whole field is to be looking at something critically to give validity to something else. And it's one of the things that blows my mind about these people. It's like, what could you possibly be looking at critically as it pertains to Jesus and the Bible and coming to a conclusion when there's absolutely nothing? They're literally going off of what these people are saying is true because they said it's true. No facts, nothing to back it up. So it's like, okay, well, scientists said or researchers said, but again, it doesn't matter how many stone tablets or shards of pottery you find with writings on it and names on it that predate any proven biblical text. Nothing is going to ever prove, and nothing ever will prove, that this stuff happened. You can find something that has Jesus' name on it and say it's Jesus' fingerprint or what have you. It's not going to prove this dude walked on water, turned water into wine, raised the dead and healed the sick and all this stuff. It's not going to prove none of that shit. None of this stuff, none of these names they find on anything is going to prove any of the validity of the Bible, because it's just a name that somebody found on something that predates any biblical text that we have. So obviously this stuff, these names existed before biblical text that we had. And you can't put the two together because you can just obviously say, well, this person probably existed and was known about, and they just put them in a book. Where is the connection from Jesus walking on water to a name of Jesus? That's not even going to say Jesus because there was no J's. So, translations, issues with translations as well. And a story passed down verbally always get changed a little bit here and there until the story is completely different by the time it gets to somebody who matters, ear. And that's the thing. So, of course, the practice of writing stuff down the way it's supposed to be and then, passing it down had to be done because it's like, well, the story is completely different by the time it got to B from A. So, yeah, I mean, it's people who already know about, of course. So a lot of people, they always send me information. A lot of Christians send me information on apologetics, Christian apologetics, and to consider their research and consider what they're pointing out. And it's a big pile of shit that people are stepping in instead of stepping over. And it's like y'all tap dancing in it for no reason. Just step over the shit. And the information is bullshit. It's what are you talking about? Why would you even deal with any of this information that you can clearly step over and keep it moving because it's bullshit? Nothing that they put out there is going to prove that. And it's like, where is it in people's mind that they can't understand that any type of pottery or rock or name is not going to prove anything, no matter what anybody said. Then you start going back to the scientists and researchers who's putting out the information as it has always been. They're Romans. It's, of course, the Rome going to put stuff out, or they were already Christians. And these are people who are in a field that is a Christian field, and they're putting out the information. And then we're just accepting it. And it's nothing to really back up what's being said. There's no proof. It's a big pile of shit. That's what I always say. It's just a pile of shit. It's not real. Like what's wrong with y'all? So yeah, please stop sending me emails on apologetics and these guys, and it's just pay attention to what they're saying. It's crazy. This guy literally sat there and told a bunch of people that truth is, your truth. So the whole argument was that your truth is not my truth. And when people say that, I look at them like they're crazy. And people be thinking they be saying some profound, smart shit, but it'd be stupid as hell when you really analyze it. My truth is not your truth. Yeah, I can understand that, but you can't use the word truth. You can say, well, what you think is not what I think. You can't say truth because truth is truth. You can't say your truth because truth is truth. If it's not, then it is. You understand? So either it is or it isn't. And then that's it. That's what truth is. There is no in between, go between, maybe so, or what have you. Truth is, that's it, period, point blank. There is no way around that. There is no yes and no. It's either yes or no. That's truth. You can't say my truth is not your truth. Either it is or it isn't. It's just that simple. So it's all about the truth, the facts. So this guy sat here and he made a reference to, have you ever talked to someone who's not on a truth quest? And that, everybody loves Jesus. And everybody likes Superman. Everybody likes Spider-Man. Doesn't mean that they're real, and one of the main things that apologetics does is they throw out so many, it's semantics to the fullest, to be honest, but they throw out so many hypotheticals. And that's what a lot of the lectures be centered around. So as I told a couple of you guys, you gotta look for the hypotheticals, because a lot of the information is hypothetical. Hypothetically speaking, if they didn't create the Bible, we'll still have all this evidence on Jesus. And he can't fathom that. No, we wouldn't, because the shit was made up to support the Bible. Because we didn't have it, during the time it's supposed to have happened. When stuff happened, you get the information. There's no point 40 years later writing about it. For what? And you can't prove none of it. And the story sounds far-fetched. So it's like I said before, God come to you, says he's a Christian. God gave him a message. He told him to tell you to give me all your worldly possessions, all your money, everything. Give me all of it. Strip down, put on his robe that's not made of cotton, and go out into the wilderness and walk until you find God. Go seek him out in the wilderness. Who would do it? These Christians who say they believe what they do it. It sounds far-fetched. You can throw in a story about a burning bush and a talking donkey and snake. You can throw all that into the mix and then have a person come to you with this information. Would you accept it? Hell no. And these Christians know damn well they wouldn't accept it. So you got to go back then and think about it. Like, how would people accept this in the masses? And it's one of the things, it's the biggest con, because you have to put so much into it. So when you build churches, and it's like, why would they build this building? Why would these people act like this? Why would it be all these people in on this if it's not real? Let me get in line. And, we've seen these experiments where people do a whole, bring a new person into the room and see if they follow what everybody else is doing in the room. Remember the one video when a lady kept walking into the room and she just didn't know what was going on. She thought she was there for a job interview, I believe. And at a certain time, the people would stand up and they did something, and she would stand up and she started to follow what they was doing. Like, okay, let me just do what they doing. And that's how it is. Monkey see, monkey do. People going to follow what is out there. And that's how the Bible is. We always raised in church, and we're looking at these grown-ups do what they was doing. We followed it, and the message is always good and it's uplifting, but we don't ever read the book because we've been taught the book. And then as soon as you start reading the Bible, it's like, oh, hell no, this is not what I thought it was. And that's the thing. And these people are basing their lives and their religion off of a sermon, off of something that appealed to them, that touched them, that they believe embodies what Christianity is about, because they didn't read the damn book. And if you read the book, there's no way you're going to have that type of emotion from it. So people want us to take into consideration, Christians want us to take into consideration that if the Bible is made up bullshit, then where do we come from? Who created us? And it's as if they're saying no other religion or people talked about the creation or had a creation story before the Bible. There's a bunch of civilizations that had creation stories before the Bible. Why don't you go to them? And it's because they already have accepted in their minds what Christianity has shot down. And that is what we call paganism, which is basically what people practice before organized religion. And it's just anybody who doesn't believe what the people in power believe. They call them pagan. And it's them studying nature and spirituality. And this is what was going on before organized religion. So how come we can't go back to that and say, well, what did they say we came from? There's a whole bunch of civilizations that we can prove existed, because we can't prove these Hebrews did, before biblical times. And they have stories of creation stories. And we got to go back and look. I mean, just ancient Greece and in Egypt, just easy examples, which they talk about in the Bible, as far as these people existing. But we can go back and look at this, even though it's put in a mythological form. So that is my point when I talk to you guys, to say, this is what you need to go back and look at. What is it about the information being put in allegorical stories and as mythologies that we need to really dig into and figure out what it's about? Because it's not given to us straight up for a reason. And I elaborated on that in previous videos. And it's like, what is it that it's like we're kids? Why is these stories being told to us like this instead of just telling me straight up the truth, And it's crazy. It's like, I really need to know what's going on because it's supposed to be so important, but it has to be given to us in a dualistic way so we can make a choice that's basically going to affect, how we live our lives. And that's how religion is put to us. And that's how this information is put to us. And what you're supposed to do is go on, a quest, a journey on your own to really research and study this information and figure out what it's all about. It's really the most important thing that you should be doing, but we're not, because the system is a part of that choice. And the system is so distracting, and life is so distracting to take you away from those things. And then people just think, Christians think going to church is, what they need to do to fulfill that part. Where the rest of us, conscious people, we feel like, no, we need to go and look. So my suggestion would be for a lot of the Christians and you guys who follow these apologetics and these people who come out and putting out all this information about the so-called evidence, it can be very convincing because what you're looking at, what you're watching, was designed to be convincing. It's just that simple. Your whole point in watching this is to hear somebody convince you of this information, and you want to be convinced. And then you have somebody who comes and examines this information more critically that's going to tell you, well, this is a pile of shit. What are you doing? Like, he's just saying stuff. Where's the proof? So these people come out and just give you, well, they found this in this cave and it had such and such name on it. Okay. And how does that prove anything? It's older than the Bible. It's older than any proven book. So how does that prove anything? It doesn't prove anything. Then you have to look at the criticism about these so-called artifacts, where you have scholars that's saying it's bogus. We can't prove this shit. It's bullshit. You have other scholars who saying, well, this is not what it's saying. And people who is coming out and saying, well, these are forgeries. These are antiquities forgeries. And it's so much out there. There's nothing concrete. And that is the bottom line point. If it's not true, then it's not true. Now, I'm not going to say if it can't be proven, it's not true. But there's something that's called common fucking sense. And common fucking sense to tell you that a snake can't talk and a donkey can't talk. That Elisha, he don't have superhuman powers where he's raising the dead. Jesus, he can't walk on no damn water. Man can't survive 3 days in a big fish. It just don't make no sense for penguins to come from the poles and somehow get to freaking, the Middle East to board an ark that a 500-year-old man built in 100 years. Like, come on. So then we have the apologetics and the Christians who want to go into the allegorical part. Because this is one of the arguments I have. Well, how come you guys can accept the allegorical stories of ancient Egyptian mythology, but we can't accept the allegorical stories of Christianity? But Christianity is not taught to us as being allegorical. They taught us Christianity as this being fact. So if that's allegorical, then what else could be allegorical? So you mean to tell me that the story of Jesus dying for our sins could be an allegory, or it could be a parable? So it didn't happen, but it's just trying to tell us some information about something else. This is the basis of our religion. Why we go to church, we praise this man for dying for our sins, and we're supposed to give all praises to him, but it could be an allegorical story. So you have these people who come out and saying, well, wait a minute, we have allegories in here, and it doesn't mean that. I don't mean specifically. It doesn't mean specifically that a snake talked or a donkey talked or that Jesus walked on water. It's allegorical. It's basically the same thing we saying, yeah. The Son is God. The Son walks on water. The Son turns water into wine. We understand the process about it raining on the grapevines and then using the grapes to make wine. It's common sense shit to us, but you can't use that argument and then say, but it's real. It's allegorical, but Jesus existed. And that's the thing. You have to sit back and accept what can be proven and, go off that. And what I tell people is, hey, you choose to believe and accept this as a grown man or woman, these stories as being real and true, that's on you. But when you come and you step up and you try to, talk down to us or to say that this is fact, that it actually happened, then, we are inclined to come and, saying, well, no, it didn't happen, or prove it happened. And you can't. And that's the whole thing. So what I always say, Jesus fake, bruh. He fake. And he's fake to a point to where it's sad to see grown ass men and women get them tattooed on their bodies, and actually believe in this stuff, to where the stuff that's put out there about his life and what he did is clearly impossible. And people who seemingly have common sense and believe in real shit to be walking around crying and hooping and hollering and everything, saying they believe in this man, when they know damn well they don't, and they don't follow the religion that he supposedly died for, or, the rules or commandments he supposedly died for, or what have you, that we can do these things and sin and so on and so forth. Y'all don't follow it. Y'all don't really honor it and give, real thanks for the religion. You're just scared of what you don't know. You're just afraid of the unknown. You're scared of life and you're acting. And the thing is, if you actually believe that this man exists, you should know he supposedly can see all things and he know you bullshitting. So it's being real with yourself. Forget all the apologetics and these people who coming out with this theology and this information trying to prove the theology of the Bible, what have you. Forget it. At the end of the day, you're not going to follow it. You don't follow it, no matter what they put out. So it just comes down to you looking in the mirror and being real with yourself and deciding, am I going to keep this charade up and keep following this bullshit? Am I going to do actual real research and come to a truth? And when you do that, you'll be free. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. And please make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe for Merkabah Academy Pro. New video, as I said, on Merkabah Academy. That's the only way you're going to be able to see that video is if you're a Never Pay Again member or you have pro access. So $7.99 a month for that, or pay for Never Pay Again membership. So we need this so we can get what we need to keep this stuff going. $7.99, appreciate it. And yeah, see you guys next video. Thanks for watching.